Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Erewash Credit Union trading as Derbyshire Community Bank's AGM. Mouthful. Welcome to you all this afternoon. We've got 18 members online at the moment, so the meeting is correct. Everybody that has joined us is in listen-only mode, and there will be opportunities to ask questions by typing them into your own devices throughout the AGM. For those that are using a PC or a laptop, the question tab is in the control panel, which is in the top right-hand corner of your screen. If you click on the little triangle next to questions, there will be a box to type your questions in. So, excuse me, submit any questions at any time and we'll be picking them up throughout the AGM. If you're using an iPhone, it's indicated with a question mark at the bottom of your device. If you click into that, again, you'll get the box to type in any questions for the board. Using an Android device, it's indicated with a question mark at the top of your device. And the AGM presentation is available in the handout section for you to download. There will be some online polling this afternoon, so I'll just launch a test poll so that everybody knows how it all works. So what is the weather like in your area today? So we've got more members joining us as we're going through this test poll. So it looks like it's quite mixed up and down the country. And the results come up instantaneously, so those are the results. So just to reiterate, the AGM presentation handout is available in the handout section. If you're using an Android device, you can type questions into your own question tab on your device. If you're using an iPhone, it's indicated with a question mark at the bottom of your device. And if you're using a PC or a laptop, it's the question tab in your control panel. So I'll hand over to Simon to formally open the meeting.
Thanks very much, Jackie. So welcome very much to the annual general meeting of Derbyshire Community Bank. Great to have you all with us, albeit online. I do just note that Lorna, you've got a hand up, Lorna Hatton. Is there anything that you want to raise, or was that just pressing the wrong button? Right, hands still raised. I'm going to ignore that and assume it's going to go away in a moment. Right, so I will be introducing a couple of speakers a little later on. We've got a guest speaker, Ben Taylor, who's going to be speaking at the end of the meeting. And I'm also going to introduce Phil Cole, our new chief exec. But for the moment, I'll be doing the talking and taking things forward. So our first item of business is the apologies. I have apologies from board member Gordon Thomas, who unfortunately has a work commitment this afternoon, so he wasn't able to join the AGM. If anybody else has any formal apologies to note, perhaps they can put those in the question section and we can capture them that way. We then move on to the minutes of our annual general meeting this time last year on Monday the 20th of March. The minutes are attached in the meeting pack. I've not been notified of any questions on completeness or accuracy of those minutes. So perhaps we can move to a vote on that, please, Jackie, to approve the minutes. Oh, there we go. Can't hear you, Jackie. Oh, there we go. I'll just give a minute or two for those to be captured by the system. Don't forget you need to press submit once you've ticked the item that you want to vote for.
So we've got 21 members online and 89% of members have voted, and it's a 76% yes for the minutes and 24% those that didn't attend.
Excellent, thank you very much indeed. Okay, so We then move on to my report as chair. That is included in the pack, but perhaps before, rather than just going through every single page of that, which I think might be a little bit tedious, I wanted to call out a few items from my report which I think are worthy of mention. The first thing is to say thank you to Adele Atkinson, who's served on our board for many, many years, has been my vice chair for since I took over as chair, and was vice chair to my predecessor for many years as well. Adele was a fantastic board colleague, incredibly helpful to me as I stepped up to become chair 2 years ago, and she's been an incredibly valuable sounding board to me and to my board colleagues. And we wish Adele all the best for the future, and thank you very much for your service to the credit union. I then wanted to pick up on a couple of points about our senior staff. I think this time last year, I sadly had to tell you that Claire Hale, our chief exec, had resigned to take a job back home in Nottingham. We were very disappointed to see her leave, but I was delighted to appoint her successor, Phil Cole. Phil joined us at the end of June last year after leading a credit union in the West Midlands, and he's already brought a wealth of experience of credit unions to Derbyshire Community Bank, which is great. We had also, disappointingly, to report the resignation of Beth Belding. Beth did an incredible job in the interregnum between Claire being chief exec and Phil arriving, but sadly she decided that the world of credit unions was not for her, and so she resigned from the end of September. Again, we wish her well and very much give her our thanks. And I'm pleased to say that the rest of the team have been pretty stable over the last year, which is great. In terms of membership, we're continuing to see a growth in members, both members who want to borrow from us and members who want to save. So we saw an increase in the year from September to September, from just under 3,400 to just over 4,100. And that trend has continued in the 6 months since our year end. So when Phil ran the numbers for me yesterday, we're up to nearly 4,500 members, which is really, really good. I continue to be concerned, as is the board, that we've moved almost completely online for our interaction with members, and that's efficient, works very well for many of our members. But I do worry that we may disenfranchise those who aren't digital natives. And so we're still keen to find a way to relaunch probably a volunteer-led presence into some of our local communities where there's perhaps a particular need. So watch out for news from the board and from Phil on that as we go through the rest of the year. In terms of our activity as members, our shareholding, that's the amount of money which you as members have deposited with us, fell very slightly year on year. By about £70,000. In the grand scheme of things, that's not a particular concern, but ultimately deposits from our savers, from our members, is the lifeblood of us growing the credit union. So if you know anybody in your community, your circle of friends or your extended family, please tell them, spread the word about the credit union and encourage them to think about opening an account with us and at least putting a few pounds in there, because then that increases the resources that we can lend to our other members. Total lending in the year was slightly up compared with the year before, but I think that hides a really important fact that we as the board and the management team have been very focused on. Lending volume for the new financial year is nearly 25% lower than a year ago, and that's not because the demand for new loans is any less. But what we're increasingly seeing is that when people put in their applications either for a new loan or for a top up to an existing loan, we are struggling to get comfortable with the ability of the borrower to afford that. We have, understandably, a regulatory duty, as well as I think a friends and family responsibility, if you like, to make sure that borrowers are not putting themselves into a worse position by borrowing more money, having an obligation to pay more each week or each month to repay the loan, and then putting themselves into financial hardship. So we look very carefully at affordability for every person who applies for a loan or applies for a top-up, and we're increasingly finding that because of cost of living crisis and so on, that's a real challenge. And while we clearly want to be very supportive to our members who need loans, We've got to strike that happy balance. And the other reason that we are finding that we can't always lend money that people have asked for is, again, more of our members seem to be having problems with gambling. And that is something that, again, our regulators very much expect us to take a look at. So we are trying to be supportive, and where we do have to decline a loan request, we always want to talk to the member to go, here are the things that maybe you could do a little bit differently, so that when you come back to us for a loan in a month's time or 2 months' time or 3 months' time, you're better positioned to show your affordability, and we can then make a loan to you. In terms of bad debts, that continues to be a problem for us, as it is for all credit unions. We had the annual conference for credit unions last weekend, and all of us as credit unions are sharing stories about bad debts and arrears continuing to rise because of the economic climate, and that's higher levels of bankruptcy and all sorts of other debt arrangements. They're not unique to us. Actually, we did see a modest increase in the total impact on our income account from 85,000 to net charge of bad and doubtful debts up to nearly 92,000. Having said that, our team, working with members who are in arrears, have done a great job in bringing money back, in chasing those arrears and turning them into a recovery. And I'm very grateful to our credit management team for all of their work on that. Turning to the results for the year as a whole, I'm pleased to say that our income was modestly up, 450,000 compared to 427,000 a year ago, and our surplus was £59,000, a little bit down from the surplus a year ago, but still a very positive number. Net interest earnings were better than we forecast. Staff costs were a little bit below plan, mainly because we weren't fully staffed through the year. And therefore, we are going to be recommending a dividend of 2%, which I think will be the biggest dividend we've paid to Sabre members in many, many years. I'm not guaranteeing that we can repeat that this time next year, but I think because we are in a very healthy reserves position, we as the board felt very comfortable in saying, you know what, let's pay a 2% dividend this year, subject to the votes that we will have in just a moment. Touching briefly on regulation, our two regulators, the Financial Conduct Authority and the Prudential Regulation Authority, who've always tried to be a bit light touch on credit unions, I think, and Phil I'm sure would echo this, has been increasingly dialing up the pressure that they are putting on the credit union sector. And that's true whether you're a tiny credit union like we are, or whether you're a relative giant in the space. All of us are being put under more pressure to demonstrate that we are being appropriate in how we run the business of the credit union. But we do keep a close eye on the metrics that the PRA uses to assess credit unions, and all of our ratios are currently green. I'm happy also to confirm from a regulatory perspective that we are in compliance with the PRA rules on depositor protection, and I'm also happy to confirm that we've maintained at all times a policy of insurance, what is popularly known as the fidelity bond, effectively to protect the credit union if any of us start misbehaving financially. I want to finish my remarks by thanking all of our supporters for their help and contribution during 22-23. We want to continue to build on that in the coming year and build on fruitful partnerships across our common bond area. We've still got a lot to aim at. I think we have about 1.2 million adults who live and work in Derbyshire, and with a membership of just over £4,000, we've got a lot of 4,000 members. We've got a lot to aim at. I want to put on record too my appreciation of the professionalism and dedicated approach taken by Phil as our chief exec and by his team. I'm really, really grateful for everything that they do. And finally, I want to put on record my sincere thanks to my colleagues on the board. We meet on a regular basis once a month to make sure we're steering the ship in the right direction. And finally, a thank you to you, all of our members, without whom none of us would be able to exist for the Derbyshire community. So that, I think, is everything that I wanted to say. Oh, hang on, there's a couple of questions that have come up here. Let's just see what those are. Oh, no, that's fine. We don't need to deal with those. Our treasurer, Pat, has tabled her report. Pat, I don't know whether there's anything that you wanted to say. Perhaps you could just stick something in questions or put your hand up if you want to engage. Pat's report is in the deck where we do that. So could we just enable Pat Butler, please, Jackie?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
Pat,
done.
you're unmuted.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Simon. Not much else to add really to what Simon said, but I'd like to say thanks to all our members. Thank you for the accountants producing the accounts for the year end. And I'm happy to say that we still maintain above 10% threshold of total assets, and our capital ratio is exceeded. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the position at the moment. The rest of it's on the report, so if anybody wants to study the figures a little bit more closely, they're welcome to. So thank you.
Thank you.
So can we bring that back now to me, Jackie? Am I live?
You are live, yes.
Perfect, thank you. So we then move on to accepting the audited accounts for the year September 2023. We put 2 summary pages in the slide deck, which I think you've already seen. The full accounts are in the pack if anybody wants to read through those. Are there any questions on the accounts? Please raise your hand or type something in the question box if you do.
There's nothing in there at the moment. No.
Okay, so Jackie, if we can now move to the vote to receive the audited accounts, please.
So we've got 21 members online at the moment, and 68% of those have voted, and it's 79% have voted. And we're at 100% yes for the audited accounts.
Okay, so we're all done on that. Thank you very much indeed. We then move on to our second resolution in relation to the accounts. Thank you. Which is to vote on the dividend. The board has unanimously recommended a dividend of 2% to be paid on all shares. Can we please vote those in favour, those against on the 2% dividend?
So we've got 84% of members voted, and it's 100% yes for the dividend.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your confidence on that, members. Okay, we then move on to a resolution to reappoint the auditors. Alexander Sloan have been our auditors for the last few years, and the board believe that we should stick with them for the forthcoming year. So there is a vote now to ask you to reappoint Alexander Sloan until the end of the AGM in a year's time.
Again, that's 84% of members that have voted, and it's 100% yes for reappointing the auditors.
Thank you very much indeed. We then move on to the election of directors. Thank you. Where we have one new director, Tanya Noon. I'm delighted to nominate Tanya to serve as a director for an initial term of 3 years. Tanya has huge experience within the cooperative movement. She currently works on membership and community relations for Central Co-op, and she's just finished, I think, a 9-year term of duty on the board of the Central Co-op as an employee director. So she's got fabulous experience. And I strongly endorse her as a prospective director. We also have 2 of our existing directors, Pat and Malcolm, who are standing for re-election for a further 3-year term. So I think the voting is broken into two sections. If we can move on to the votes, please, Jackie.
That's Tanya's first. What, 79% of members voted, and it's 100% yes for Tanya's appointment.
Thank you very much indeed. And then if we can move to the second vote, please.
So this is the reappointment for Pat. And that's 79% of members voted, and it's 100% yes for the reappointment of Pat.
Thank you very much indeed. And then if we can move on to Malcolm.
And that's 79% of voters, and it's 100% yes for the reappointment of Malcolm.
Thank you very much indeed. And we then ask for permission from the members to co-opt an additional up to 2 directors during the course of the year. We don't have anybody specifically in mind, but we think it's important to give the board that flexibility that if we come across people who we think are going to be valuable additions to the board, we can bring them on during the course of the year. Then they will all stand for re-election in the AGM in a year's time. So if you could ask you please to give us authority to co-opt up to 2 additional individuals. We can move on to that vote, please, Jackie.
Yeah, that's 84% of members voted, and it's 100% yes for that resolution.
Thank you very much indeed. We then briefly are going to adjourn the annual general meeting and move into a special general meeting. Don't worry about the distinction in names. It's a quirk of company law and the rules of us as a credit union. We have a rule change and some consequential rule changes that as a board we would like to recommend to you as members. As you will know from my report a year ago and from my predecessor's report a year prior to that, we have struggled for some considerable time to get people to volunteer to serve as a supervisory committee. And the role of a supervisory committee is effectively to audit what the board and management are doing. And therefore, we're proposing a rule change to remove the requirements to have a supervisory committee and instead move the obligation to have effective internal audit arrangements to being a board responsibility. And assuming that we're in favour of that, then there are a whole series of minor consequential changes throughout the rule book to remove any references to the supervisory committee. All of those are in the set of rules that's attached in your meeting materials, which sets out, you can see marked in red, either every addition to the rules or every deletion from the rules. Just so that you don't think we are being unusual in doing this, as we talk to other credit unions, this is a growing trend, and more credit unions are having exactly the same problem that we are in finding it increasingly challenging to persuade people to join a supervisory committee, and instead they're moving to a paid internal audit arrangement. If I'm honest, there's probably some benefits in that too, in that by paying people to do it, they've got to come and do the work, whereas obviously volunteers have the pressures of their day-to-day family lives and so on. Are there any questions that anybody wants to raise on the proposed removal of the supervisory committee? Can't see anything coming up in the questions.
No, there's nothing up in the questions at the moment.
Okay, so can we then move to the first vote, please, which is to remove the requirements to have a supervisory committee?
So we've got 84% of members voted, it's 94% for and 6% against.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I declare that that is carried. And we then have a second vote, which is to approve all the consequential changes to remove any references to the supervisory committee in the rules. Can we please have that vote now, Jackie?
Yeah, again, it's the same percentage, 94% for and 6% against.
Thank you. I declare that duly carried. So that ends the formal resolution part of the meeting. I'm now going to hand the meeting over to our Chief Exec, Phil Cole, who will take just a minute to introduce himself and hopefully say a few interesting things. And he will then introduce our guest speaker, Ben Taylor. Phil, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Simon. First of all, thanks very much for the very warm welcome I've had at Derbyshire Community Bank. I've been involved in credit unions for longer than I care to remember, more than 20 years, both as a volunteer on various committees and boards, and also as a chief executive in credit union in Birmingham. It's been really pleasing to see the level of engagement that we have with Derbyshire Community Bank and our members. We want to do more of that if we can. And my role really is to try and be able to grow the organisation, but also to improve the customer experience, give our members better control of their money. And I always say that as a credit union, which we are, we're a people business. We're not just a money business, and our outcomes are measured as much as we've looked at the accounts. It's also what impact we're having on people's lives, and everything that we do is there to support the members and to enable them to flourish and give them opportunities. And sometimes that's in a very small way, but it's very significant. And also we see the significant role that we play as people make major life changes or changing jobs, moving around, new homes, new jobs, new family members, all sorts of things that we get involved in. Something else that Simon touched on, I'll just mention that when I say we're here to help people to flourish, it's not just about surviving, it's more than that. And even if somebody misses a loan repayment, we'll still work with them and be as accommodating and supportive as we can to try and help them get back on track. And it's really pleasing for me to see that we've had a lot of engagement with our members about that, and even people who've really gone quite a lot of arrears with us, will still be able to get that back and then get them to clear their loans and to then improve their credit report. The big problem that we have as Derbyshire Community Bank is that we are not very visible. And again, as Simon says, that we want to try and find ways to be more visible, more accessible to people. The biggest problem that credit unions nationally have is that people don't know about us. So, and you as our membership, you've got as much to role to play in that as we do as staff. And I think as part of that process, we will be looking for people to volunteer. So there will be an opportunity to click a box to volunteer for that. And also along with that, just do please contact us. We will be sending more surveys out to members, and your opinions are really valuable to us. It really helps us to be able to understand how we can be better serving in our community. And please do tell your friends. We grow by and large because my friend told me is what we hear back. And it's as much as we put campaigns out on social media and do various little projects, it's always because you as members talk to your friends or colleagues about the credit union. You may have seen our little campaign we've been running about £12 a month savings. It's a very simple way to help people build up some emergency savings, because we know nationally the savings rate are very low. So we'll be doing a bit more around that. So thanks very much for the welcome that I've had, and really looking forward to be able to achieve lots of different things over the next 12 months. One of the first people to contact me when I started the role here last year was Ben from Derbyshire Council, and it's really pleasing to see the level of support that the council has for credit unions in the region. And I thought it'd be really helpful to give Ben an opportunity to just explain a bit about what he's been involved in and what the council does to try and support credit unions. So can I hand over to Ben?
Thanks, Phil. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me and see me. Let's see. Can you hear me and see me? Oh, I'm getting a thing through channel webcam. Apologies. I'm new to this thing. Is there any way I can share any slides at all? I've got some slides to go along with what I'm talking about today, or is that not possible?
Yeah, just send me a second, then I'll just make you present, and then you should be able to share your screen.
Apologies. I'll talk through. Oh, here we go. Brilliant. Show my screen. Fabulous. So hopefully, if I go into this and I do this, you can see some slides.
Yeah, if you just do it slideshow, that's it.
Fab, brilliant, great. So yeah, my name's Ben. I work for Derbyshire County Council, work as part of the public health team in the financial inclusion department, and I'm the service development officer for the Affordable Credit Project. And Phil very kindly invited me down today to talk a little bit about what we do and how we support credit unions in the area. So I won't keep too much of your time, but I'd like to go through a timeline first of all of how this came to fruition. So this all started as a offshoot, if you will, of Derbyshire's local welfare provision, which we call the Derbyshire Discretionary Fund. That started in 2013. In 2018, we approached Derbyshire Community Bank to look at a referral project for loans on a pilot. Following that, we moved into public health, and we found out that the council, and in particular the public health department, had done some work with credit unions in the past, but it had been paused for several years. So following that discovery, we went to the Public Health Investment Panel to ask for some funding and support to carry out work around access to affordable credit. And what was born from that is this project, which started in October 2021, which popped the project into full force and gave me an opportunity to work with it. The project's been running now for a couple of years, and the tables and the landscapes have changed quite significantly in those years in regard to people's disposable income, the cost of living pressures, etc., etc. And it's brought up some challenges for the project and also some opportunities as well in able to move forward. So when we look at the approach to the project, we look at taking a public health approach, and that covers 5 key areas: prevention, population, evidence, causes, and collaboration. And I feel at the moment we are hitting all 5 of those subjects in regards to the approach we're taking. We aim to prevent against the harms associated with high cost credit, and we promote affordable credit as an option for people who are unable to access mainstream banking. We look at our population, we look at population around people who will access our local welfare provision, which again we call the Derbyshire Discretionary Fund. We're also looking at lower income employees for our salary savings options, Ukrainian families and care leavers. And then we've got evidence from a broad range of sources, and we are currently going through an evaluation stage of the project at its halfway mark to look at what we've done, what's worked well, what hasn't worked so well, and how we can learn and move forward. And then we look at the causes, someone's financial situation, history, and lived experience around their choices for credit. And then collaboration, working with affordable lenders, working with other departments, and working with national organisations such as the Illegal Money Lending Team. So when we talk about affordable credit, I'm sure you all know this, being members of a credit union, but the community bank is generally capped at 42.6, CDFIs are slightly higher. Then we've got the high cost options, which are the payday lenders and the doorstep lenders, and obviously not mentioned there are the illegal lenders, which are even higher than that. And as you can see from the table, there's a clear difference in how much it costs to pay back a loan from those different organisations. We run a Christmas campaign every year, done it for the last couple of years now, and the evidence base of this was a survey by a company called Hasty, which found that 61% of people show that Christmas was a financial worry. The interesting thing about the report is that it was a cross-cutting report which was aimed at low-income families and also high earners, and the financial worry cross-cut against the whole population who was interviewed on that particular question. They also found that over 70% of people borrowed to pay for Christmas, and we see locally that our local welfare assistance, that discretionary fund I was talking about, always sees a surge in applications each January, which shows that people struggle more in January, possibly due to Christmas. So the Christmas campaign we've run this year, we did 2 phases. The first phase ran from the 18th of November to the 18th of December, and we advertised over Google. We advertised a message of, if you absolutely have to borrow for Christmas, please do so safely and responsibly, and advertised credit union services in those adverts. We had over 98,000 impressions, 2,000 clicks on the adverts, over 2,500 views on our own affordable credit page, and then over 300 click-throughs out to other partner websites such as Derbyshire Community Bank. Phase 2 ran in January, and this focused on commission-free saving, saving for Christmas 2024, and pushed the fact that the savings were protected by the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. We saw just under 4,500 visits to our credit union page, which was a huge increase on previous years, and we saw 552 clicks out from other partner organisations, again, such as Derbyshire Community Bank. And from this campaign, we received over 213,000 impressions. An impression, I'm told from our social media team, is how many times someone sees that particular advert. So someone can see it more than once, obviously. That's an example of the adverts that we ran. On the left is the phase 1, and on the right is the phase 2. And they're quite vibrant and hopefully quite eye-pleasing. We also run a school uniform campaign. We're aware that uniforms are very expensive, and generally parents would need to buy several uniforms throughout the year, but the big push is normally around the June, July, August mark. From that campaign, we saw over 1.2 million impressions, over 10,000 click-throughs, and over just under 2,000 visits to the credit union website. I'm just trying to get my screen in order. We also are out and about quite a lot. I think Phil and both Simon mentioned that the best way to tell people about credit unions is to spread by word of mouth. And any event that's running across the county, I'm there. As you can see from the pictures, I'm also with our partners from the Illegal Money Lending Team, talking about loan shark prevention and talking about the credit union movement, which is really important. So far, we've talked to 579 professionals and 254 residents at 37 events across the county. Talking again about collaboration, we work with the Illegal Money Lending Team to raise the awareness of illegal money lending and how to report it. We have also got 8 digital boards across the whole county, which Derbyshire Community Bank can deliver their messages on there as well. alongside the illegal money lending team. And if you can see that image on the right hand side, my control box is covering it, but hopefully it's not for you. You can see the quite gritty and quite hard-hitting advertisement around stopping loan sharks, which then obviously will lead to more affordable and safer borrowing options, such as credit unions. And working with the team, we've delivered presentations and training to partner agencies, training over 300 people last year. The Affordable Credit Project is part of the council's cost of living campaign, which is made up of 9 different pillars, one being affordable credit. The other pillars cover things like health, housing, mental health, and employability. And together and separately, we run both offline and online comms, internally and externally. We popped a article around credit unions in a Derbyshire Now magazine that was delivered to every household last December, and we've also included information around credit union, safe borrowing and affordable borrowing on leaflets, which were delivered home with every school child. We also have developed a salary savings video, which I won't play for you now. It's quite lengthy, but I'll make sure that gets out with any kind of minutes or any kind of notes that's sent out from the AGM. This was part of a campaign launched internally last year with internal staff to raise the awareness and maximisation of employees saving through their salary. And we had quite an increase in salary savers with credit unions following this campaign, which is really good. The YouTube video just basically goes through what salary savings is, the benefits around it, and how internal Derbyshire County Council staff can sign up for this perk effectively. We also put the same messaging out to other employers across the Derbyshire area in the county-wide health and wellbeing newsletters, which go to about 5,000 organisations across the county to encourage employers to put a salary savings scheme in place so that their employees can sign up for that as well. There's plenty of research online to say that it's one of the best ways you can save. And that video won't play. I'll skip through that. There we go. We mentioned before about the Derbyshire Discretionary Fund, DDF, which is the council's local welfare provision. What this is, it's a fund people can apply for cash, emergency cash for things like heating and food, and it can also pay for things like fridge, freezers, washing machines, and flooring for some people as well who can't afford to pay for things themselves. Obviously, with any scheme that's council-led, it does have a finite amount of funding, and given what's happened financially over the last couple of years, people's needs are higher than ever. So we launched a referral process, which meant that if anyone applied to the fund and were not eligible as due to being out of area, had the wrong benefits in place, or were applying for things we couldn't pay for, the team can refer through to the project, and the project will call them and offer them advice and information around affordable lending, such as through a credit union. That's been in place now for just over 18 months. We're consistently refining it, adding new things in, and trying to make it as streamlined as possible, while still helping out the most vulnerable in our county with the grant options that are available. The project has recently taken on pilot referrals for rent in advance cases, and there's some statistics on the right hand side there of how many we've had through, how many people have been referred to a credit union, and how many people have been signposted out to other sources of support where a credit union loan wasn't for them. One such case that came through the local welfare provision was a chap who suffered a house fire, unfortunately, and most of his belongings were destroyed. Unfortunately, the resident was working while claiming universal credit, so therefore his income was higher than what the grant could pay for. When we spoke to the customer, the conversation said that the cost to replace total items would be about £2,000. We put an application forward to the credit union, and we had a conversation around maybe purchasing content insurance moving forward if affordable. So if anything was to happen again, the items would be covered. the credit union very kindly granted £1,000 through a loan, and although this was not enough to replace all the items, it was a very, very good start. And the resident then reported as well that he had a contents policy in place following our conversation. So that's a really good outcome in terms of working with the local welfare provision, the local council, and the local credit union. So some reflections on what we've done so far. Let's move that out of the way. Sorry, I keep having control panels in the way. We've noticed that the rising cost of living has reduced the affordability of loans, especially in households that rely on benefit. I think Simon mentioned that before in his talk around affordability coming down. We've heard from several credit unions that they're reporting a reduction in savers, so we're trying to push that now as well, not just borrowers but also savers. We've also seen that there needs to be a change in attitudes around debt and borrowing. It just makes social media work quite challenging. When we have two types of social media engagement. There's targeted engagement where we target a certain cohort, so a certain population, a certain age range, or a certain economic level. And then there's organic, which goes to everyone who follows that particular page. When we put out organic advertisements, we had a lot of backlash from people saying, how can the council put people into debt? How can the council push people into this situation? It's not what we're about. And I think there's be a slight change with that. And we've learned from that moving forward. And our second campaign we launched was mainly targeted work. So the messaging we got out to people were for the people who needed it rather than for everyone. We've also seen that evidencing the impact of our work is difficult, and we could have really worked more with credit unions, which is what I'm trying to do now, moving forward. As I said, the evaluation stage is good to look back and say, well, that worked, that didn't work so well, and then use that knowledge to move forward and improve the project in the second half. So, as I say, I do speak closely with Phil and the rest of the CEOs of the credit unions within Derbyshire. We do have conversations around what do you think we should do next? What do you want from this? What could work well? What couldn't work so well? And the project will change depending upon the feedback we get through from our credit union partners, and as well as residents too. It's really important to get that information through. So future plans, the project runs for another 2 years, and we are doubling down on our prevention tactics. So we're further promoting salary savings and credit unions internally and externally. That's our bread and butter. Going to events, putting comms out, social media campaigns, and internal email campaigns as well. And the population side, we are currently refining the offer of the Derbyshire Discretionary Fund, which is our local welfare provision, and we're trying to test out some other products. So that refinement is currently underway and will feed in to my projects as well. Collaboration, again, we're still working with our partner groups, still working with our local credit unions, but we're also looking at other avenues around collaboration as well. So we're looking to work with Ukrainian families, we're looking to work with care leavers and the care leaving teams within the council, and we're also looking to work with people who are digitally excluded. We've seen that many credit unions now are going down a more online channel, and we know that there's people out there who haven't got the knowledge or the technology to access certain services. We're working with those people. We're trying to try and get this sorted out for them. So we're looking at certain pockets of population across the county where the equipment isn't there or the knowledge isn't there, and working with our partners who are going to get out there and train people effectively. And then evidence, again, the evaluation is happening in April, so we're looking at what went well, what didn't go so well, and how we can move forward. And we'll be working with our credit union partners with that evaluation. And that's me. So if you want to find out more about what we're doing, the website's there, derbyshire.gov.uk/credit unions. And then the project's email address is affordable.credit@derbyshire.gov.uk. And thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Ben. Just get Phil back.
Thanks. I thought you'd all left then for a second. I thought, oh.
They may have done. I'll just take the presenter rights back. And
of course, I'll mute myself.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Thank you. You just muted, I think, Simon.
There we go.
There we go.
Thanks very much for that, Ben. That was a fascinating presentation. Great to hear about all the work you're doing across the county, working not just with us, but with the other credit unions who touch into Derbyshire. Thanks very much for that. Can I thank, firstly, Jackie for organising the meeting, making sure that everything works. Very much appreciate that. And thank you to all of you, the members, for participating in the AGM today. Thanks very much indeed, and good luck in the coming months. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Thank you.